Here is a sequence of shapes. Each time a square is added to a shape, two more circles are added. The sequence of shapes continues. The formula for the sequence is C equals 2s plus 2, and we can see that s is the number of squares and c is the number of circles. So the number of circles equals 2 times the number of squares plus 2. Calculate the number of circles when the number of squares in a shape is 150. So the number of circles is 2 times the number of squares, so 2 times 150 plus 2. 2 times 150 is 300, plus 2 is 302. So there will be 302 circles in the shape if the number of squares is 150. Now, how many squares are there in a shape that has 100 circles? So we know that C will be 100 if we have 100 circles. So 100 equals 2 times the number of squares plus 2. Well, 98 plus 2 is 100. So we need to think 2 times what is 98? Well, 98 divided by 2 is 49. So that means 2 times 49 is 98 plus 2 is 100. So there must be 49 squares in a shape that has 100 circles. Here are 5-digit cards. We have 0, 1, 2, 4 and 5. Use each card once to make these calculations correct. So first, 0.04 times something equals 0.48. So we can see that we have 2 decimal places, 2 digits after the decimal point in the question, and 2 digits after the decimal point in the answer as well. So we can just ignore our decimal points and think 4 times what is 48. Well, 4 times 12 is 48 because 48 divided by 4 is 12. So that means 0.04 times 12 is 0.48. Now 0.7 times something equals 28. So here we have 1 decimal place, 1 digit after the decimal point in the question, but we don't have any decimal places in the answer. So what we need to do is write a 0.0 on the end so that we have 1 decimal place in both the question and in the answer. And now that we've put a 0.0 on the end, we can ignore our decimal points and think 7 times what is 280. Well, 280 divided by 7 is 40. So that means 0.7 times 40 is 28. And finally, 0.0 something times 4 equals 0.2. So when we write this digit here, we'll have 2 decimal places in our question, 2 digits after the decimal point. So let's make sure we have 2 digits after the decimal point in our answer as well, because then we can ignore the decimal points and think what times 4 is 20. Well, 5 times 4 is 20 because 20 divided by 4 is 5, so this missing digit here must be a 5. 0.05 times 4 equals 0.20, which is the same as 0.2. Here is part of a number line. Write the missing numbers in the boxes. So we have 0 and 20 marked on our number line. And to get from 0 to 20, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 of these little lines. So if we divide 20 by 4, that tells us that each of these little lines represents an increase of 5. So that means after 20, we will have 25, 30, 35, 40, and then this point here will be 45. Now we need to find this point here, and we can see that that's before 0 on our number line. So if each line is a difference of 5, 5 before 0 will be minus 5, and then we'll have minus 10 as this point here. The diagram shows an isosceles triangle and a square on a straight line. Calculate angle A. So we know that angles in a square are always right angles or 90-degree angles, so we can write 90 here. But then to find angle A, we'll need to find this angle first. And to do that, we can remember that angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So 34 plus these two angles will total 180. Now we're told that the triangle is an isosceles triangle, and an isosceles triangle will have two equal angles. So this angle will be the same size as this angle here. So 34 plus the two angles will need to add up to 180. So that means these two angles together will be 146 degrees, because if we subtract 34 from 180, we get 146. So the two angles together are 146, and we know that because it's an isosceles triangle, the angles will be the same size. So if we divide 146 by 2, that gives us 73. So we know that these angles here must be 73 degrees. They're the same because it's isosceles, and we can check 73 plus 73 plus 34 adds up to 180. So now we can just remember that angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees. So we have a straight line here, and we have 73 and 90. So if we subtract 90 and then 73 from 180, that gives us 17. So we know that angle A must be 17 degrees. This pie chart shows the lunch choices of Year 6 children at a school. 28 children in Year 6 have a school meal. How many go home for lunch? So we can see that the percentage having a school meal is 35%, and we know that that's 28 children. But we want to know how many go home for lunch. We can see that that's 25%. So if we know 35%, how can we work out 25%? Well, first, let's work out 5%. If we know that 35% is 28, to find 5%, we can divide by 7, because 35 divided by 7 is 5, and 28 divided by 7 is 4. So we know that 5% represents 4 children, so we can find 25% from that, because 5 times 5 is 25, 4 times 5 is 20, so that means 20 children go home for lunch. Here is an equilateral triangle inside a square. The perimeter of the triangle is 48 centimetres. Calculate the perimeter of the square. So the perimeter is the distance around the outside. So the perimeter of the triangle is 48, and we're told that it's an equilateral triangle. And that's important because in equilateral triangles, all sides are the same length. So these three sides add up to 48. So to find one side, to find this side here, we can divide 48 by 3, and that gives us 16. So we know that the sides of the triangle are all 16 centimetres. They're all the same because it's an equilateral triangle, and that gives a perimeter of 48 centimetres, because 16 plus 16 plus 16, or 16 times 3, is 48. Now we want to find the perimeter of the square, and with a square, all of the sides are the same length. So if this side here has a length of 16, then all of our other sides have a length of 16 as well, because in squares, all sides are the same length. So to find the perimeter, we need to work out 16 plus 16 plus 16 plus 16, or 16 times 4, and that gives us 64 centimetres as the perimeter of the square. Look at this number. We have 3,167,810. What is the value of the digit 6 in the number? Circle the correct answer. Well, if we find the digit 6, we can see that that's in the 10,000s place. Because remember, we count place value from the right, and we have our ones, tens, hundreds, then our thousands and 10,000s. So because the 6 is in the 10,000s place, it represents or has a value of 60,000. It's in the 10,000s place, and 6 times 10,000 is 60,000. 3 apples have a mean average mass of 100 grams. The largest apple is removed. The mean mass of the remaining 2 apples is 70 grams. What is the mass of the largest apple? So the mean is the average, and the way that we calculate the mean is dividing the total by the number of things that we have. So the total weight divided by 3, because there are 3 apples, is 100, because that's the mean mass. So we know that 300 divided by 3 is 100, so 3 apples weigh 300 grams together. But then the largest apple is removed, and the mean mass of the remaining 2 apples is 70 grams. So here, to calculate the mean, we have the total. We're dividing by 2, because this time we're told the mass of 2 apples, and we have a mean of 70. So it's a missing number division, so we can multiply, and 70 times 2 is 140. That means 140 divided by 2 is 70. So 2 apples, the remaining 2 apples, weigh 140 grams together. Now we want the mass of the largest apple, so the apple that was removed. So we have 140 plus whatever the apple that was removed is, equals 300. And 140 plus 160 is 300. So that means the mass of the largest apple is 160 grams. A builder needs 7,600 bricks to build a wall. There are 500 bricks in a load. How many loads must the builder buy? So we know that he needs 7,600, and there are 500 in each load, so we need to divide 7,600 by 500. And the easiest way to do that is to count up in steps of 500 until we get past 7,600. So one load is 500 bricks, which means that 2 loads is 1,000. If we multiply by 7, 2 times 7 is 14, 1,000 times 7 is 7,000, so there are 7,000 bricks in 14 loads. That means there are 7,500 in 15, but the builder needs 100 more bricks because he needs 7,600. So 16 loads will take us past 7,600, so that means the builder must buy 16 loads. The price of one load of 500 bricks is £230. What is the cost in pence of one brick? So we need the cost in pence, but we're given the cost in pounds. Now £230 is 23,000 pence. So we can divide 23,000 by 500. So divide the total amount by the amount in each. When we have division questions with end zeros, we can cancel the end zeros and work out 230 divided by 5. That gives us 46, so the cost in pence of one brick is 46 pence. 2 matchsticks have the same length as 3 bottle tops. How many bottle tops will have the same length as 50 matchsticks? So 2 matchsticks is the same as 3 bottle tops. But we want to know how many bottle tops is the same as 50 matchsticks. So we can think 2 times what is 50? Well, 50 divided by 2 is 25. So that means 2 times 25 is 50. So to work out the number of bottle tops, we need to multiply 3 by the same. So work out 3 times 25. That gives us 75. So there will be 75 bottle tops, making the same length as 50 matchsticks.